One mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One mic with Big Mike.
You know, ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah, I Bang Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic.
Yes indeed. Super Bowl Monday, the day after the big game. One mic with Big Mike. I am Big Mike here with you, back from a week-long hiatus, away from the show, the thing I love so much, love to do so much, talk to you guys about sports and life and anything that pertains to, well, not pertains to, but anything that just might happen to come up in my mind. Man, it almost feels like when I take such a long time off, it always feels like I'm starting anew again, man. Like everything is fresh, and I got to get myself back into the groove. You already hear me kind of stumbling over my words a little bit here, but I'm glad to be back. Glad the Super Bowl. Well, not glad the Super Bowl is over, because that means football season's over with, and now the heavy lifting begins. Yeah, all you sports talk lovers out there, get ready for those tantalizing questions about your favorite, the most overrated running backs in the league, or the best point guard of all time. Those riveting questions, LeBron or MJ. Yeah, not here. We're gonna have actual, real discussions. We're gonna talk about topical things that are going on within each league whenever they do merit that type of attention. And quite frankly, this is one of my favorite times of the year. This is when the teams who weren't one of the two teams you saw yesterday in the Super Bowl, this is when they try to get better. This is where they start talent evaluating. And the combine is coming up, which I'm a big-time combine nerd. The draft, personal workouts, things of that nature. We're done with all the All-Star games. So now it's time to get down to business. Whatever your favorite team is, we'll figure out how they can possibly be one of the final two standing, and then even more so, the team that walks away with the Lombardi Trophy. Once again, this is One Mic with Big Mike. If you haven't heard the show before, welcome. You guys make sure you log on to Spreaker. That's where I'm being heard right now, Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app. You guys can search for my show after you sign up for your free Spreaker account. Search for my show, the number 1, MICWITHBIGMIKE, One Mic with Big Mike. Also use that same exact handle for my Twitter and my Instagram. Guys, make sure you give me follows there. And like my Facebook page. It's ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, we're going to jump right into this thing. We're not going to waste a whole lot of time talking about what I did last week while I wasn't with you guys. By the way, if you want to share it with your friends, the show is broadcasted live at 7 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you don't catch it live, you guys can also check it out on Spreaker, Spreaker. It's like speaker, but with an R in between the P and the E. It has an app for all of your mobile devices as well, so you can take me with you. You can download the podcast after they are presented live. Do all those things. And once you're there, when you listen to the podcast, there's a little heart there. Make sure you click the little heart as well, so you guys can get my likes up and those type of things. Also, wow, I just had a brain fart. I was going to say something about Spreaker as well, but we'll get back to that. Now, as far as today's show goes, it's going to be a very, which is probably obvious, a very Super Bowl heavy show. I do have some other things that are on the docket as well, but I want to make sure I concentrate a lot of my attention here on the NFL. In particular, what happened last night in the game. I'm not going to go, do a post-game play-by-play, but some things that I found interesting, and a lot of the aftermath as it pertains to possibly the two biggest stars in the game, two quarterbacks, Peyton Manning on one side for the Denver Broncos, and Cam Newton, or Cameron Jarius Newton, on the other side for the Carolina Panthers. The tale of two very different stories, and I got to make sure I bring up something that I warned you guys about. The last time we were here, I warned you guys. And the thing I warned you guys about has come to fruition now, so we'll talk about that here. Hopefully we get into this Louisville Cardinals basketball team situation. They're in a little bit of trouble, and they try to do what everybody else does. We're going to self-impose. We're going to punish ourselves. But that's not really how it goes. You don't really punish yourselves. There's a lot of shrapnel that comes out of the situations when you drop that bomb. Also locally here, like I said, it's time for teams to start getting better. The teams that weren't good or are good enough last year, you can get better this year. And specifically talking about the hometown team here, the Atlanta Falcons. So I got a couple of little news nuggets as they pertain to the hometown Atlanta Falcons. Hawks are in action tonight against the Orlando Magic. They took a L yesterday, Super Bowl Sunday. Took an L against that same Orlando Magic team at the buzzer. And if you heard the broadcast, you know why I'm laughing. The NBA, who gives zero you-know-whats, gave another coach the axe today, mid-season. You got to go. Like, the NBA don't give a damn. They'll fire you like 10 games in, pimp, and it's going digital, just like that. As well as, man, picked up something on Saturday. Saw the first Saturday primetime game in the NBA that was actually very competitive. And also, I didn't even put it on my notes because it just happened. My guy, one of my favorite dudes, Alec Campbell, Donald Campbell Jr., of 99.9 ESPN Radio in Raleigh. I think that those are the call letters. He'll correct me when he gets on the show, but he'll be joining me at 7:30. And we're going to talk about what's going on locally. Now, he's not in Charlotte, but he's in North Carolina. He's close enough. And he's going to give me, some perspective. I think his show is from 3 to 7. So they just got off the air. And they've probably been taking phone calls all day. So he'll be able to give me a good, adequate barometer reading of what the hell people are seeing. Because we know what's going on nationally with Cam right now. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I want to dive right into that because I want to let everything that you've heard throughout the day, on ESPN and Fox Sports and whatever else, talk radio that you've been listening to. And I'm going to give you what I think is a different perspective and something that I hadn't heard anybody. I wanted to initially say, you know what, I'm gonna refrain from listening to anyone today because I don't want my thoughts to be convoluted. Even if someone says the same thing that I'm saying, and I didn't do that. I went ahead and I listened to everyone today. Well, not everyone. I listened to as much as I could today, and no one seemed to bring up a certain point, and it wouldn't be, and they probably wouldn't. And the reason I'm saying that is because one of the main reasons that I do this show is because I want to be an author that can relate to the characters in his story. And so many times in sports media, that's not the case. The authors don't look like or have no relatability to the people that they're writing about and the people that they're commenting about. So certain things get said and certain words get used in describing the behavior of athletes when you just don't understand. And I don't know, maybe you shouldn't. And maybe the reason that you don't understand is because the people who can add that perspective to you, they're not willing to give it. It may come across as too controversial because of where you work and who signs your checks. Well, no one signs my checks, so I can say what the hell I want to. Also, shout out to Doug Stewart, man, or to Ryan Stewart, formerly of the Two Live Stews, man. Had a little exchange with him today and probably going to continue exchanging some things with him here once the show is over with. He took a listen to one of my shows. He seemed to give it a thumbs up of sorts. I'm always looking for criticism. I'm always looking for ways to get better, man. I'm not one of those thin-skinned dudes that you can't say anything to. I only ask that if you do have criticism, have the other side of it as well. Have not the praise, not that I don't need people's praise, but if you have criticism, tell me why you feel it's that way, and what I can do to make whatever you're criticizing or whatever you're saying is wrong better. And I'm always open to that. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's the only way we learn. It's the only way we get wiser. The plan is to do on this day today our daily look back into the history and the annals of sports. But today is going to be a very, very thick day as far as the conversation goes, because I haven't been able to talk to you guys for like a week. So now I'm here. You know what I mean? I'm here, and a lot of things have happened. And a lot of things have, it's one of those days where you kind of find yourself catching, that diarrhea of the mouth. And you just like, oh. And also, on Wednesday, I want to remind you guys, on Wednesday, former NFL and All-American tight end Ben Troop will join the show on Wednesday. We get to talk to him about college football. We get to talk to him about combine stuff that's coming up, pro days, things of that nature. We get to talk to him about all that kind of stuff, as well as the Super Bowl. We're not going to be just done talking about Super Bowl today, but Ben Troop will be on the show on Wednesday. I spent the last week working on some improvements to the show, and I hope you guys can appreciate it, and I hope it serves me well also. Okay, so yesterday, the Broncos took care of the Carolina Panthers in Super Bowl 50. And for what it's worth, it's hard to say the better team won, but it's something that I always talk about when it comes to football. And the reason that football is, in its own way, just kind of beautiful. The score of the game, 24-10, they won by 2 touchdowns. It's kind of the beauty of the sport, but also the frustrating part of the sport where the best team doesn't always win. It's like March Madness. Anytime there's a one and done situation, all bets are off. Like, look at baseball, right? Look at basketball. More times than not, the better team is going to win a 7-game series. It's too hard to upset someone, excuse me, 4 times, and when you're not better or equal. That's the beauty of those sports. But then also, we know how crazy you guys get over March Madness, and it's the same thing with the NFL playoffs, man. It's a one and go home. Either you get it done or you don't. There is no tomorrow. There are no adjustments to make after the game. Your adjustment is packing up your damn locker and going home sad. And this is what happened yesterday. There's no doubt in my mind, as I sit here today, that man for man, 22 for 22, plus some reserves and whatnot, that the Carolina Panthers are the better team. They're constructed to do what they do better than the Broncos are constructed to do what they do. Now, that being said, even as the better team, when you start giving other teams, because it's still the Super Bowl, let's not gloss over that. It's still the Super Bowl, and you are still dealing with the best team, proverbially. See, you can't talk no more. Took a week off, now I can't talk. From the AFC. That being said, you can't give them extra possessions. You can't give them 61-yard punt returns. To me, those type of things equate to extra possessions, because 61 yards flipping the field that much, you basically, no matter where you caught, even if you catch the football from the goal line on the punt, 61 yards, you're over midfield, which is a first down basically away from field goal range. So essentially, you've already given up 3 points once you give up that 61-yard punt return, which is what the Carolina Panthers did, the longest punt return in Super Bowl history, as a matter of fact. A lot of history was made in this game. Then the game started. I was tweeting during the game at One Mike with Big Mike, the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. And one of the things I noticed, the Panthers won the toss and they deferred. They wanted to start on defense. They wanted to try to get to Peyton Manning early. It didn't work out that way. Peyton Manning, they came out, they allowed him to get into a rhythm by completing some short balls and not really asking him to do more than what he should have done, because you can understand the offensive philosophy probably being that they're going to try to make Peyton throw. And if they're going to do that, let's give him easy throws. Like the Panthers are a big-time zone team. Ron Rivera and his staff, they play a lot of zone coverage. With that being said, you don't really have a lot you don't really create a lot of tight windows for a quarterback who doesn't really have the arm strength to fit it in those windows anymore. So that was one thing I noticed off the bat from the Carolina Panthers standpoint. It really, really looked like those dudes obviously I live here in Atlanta, Georgia. The NFC South, same division. The Atlanta Falcons, are in the same division as the Carolina Panthers. So we pay attention to what they do, especially, when it looked like they were ready to go undefeated. You pay attention, and you saw a team that played loose, very loose all year long, had a lot of fun. I found it very, very refreshing. A lot of people obviously didn't, and we'll have that conversation as well today. But this particular, at the beginning of this game, it seemed like, I don't know if it was tightness. People categorize it as being tight. It just looked like it wasn't just another football game, whereas every other game was. It was the finality of the game seemed to be looming very heavily over the Carolina Panthers, when really I don't think it should have been. If anything, maybe more so over the Denver Broncos because of, Peyton Manning's situation, it possibly being his last football game ever. And you saw things like Cam Newton, a lot of high throws. For some reason, ESPN has this record, and I don't know that anyone ever goes back and fact checks these records. I'm gonna say it, but not saying it as though I'm endorsing it as fact. He had a record 10 overthrows in this ball game, a Super Bowl record tied with Jim Kelly of overthrows. I don't know how an overthrow is classified. I know what it looks like when you see it. Like my man Jason Goff says, like porn, right? You know porn when you see it. You don't have to describe it really, but you know it when you see it. I know what an overthrow is, but he had 10 of those, and I chalked it up to the adrenaline at the beginning of the game, and I also tweeted about that eventually they'll get into the flow of the game, and he'll settle down. The team will settle down, but it didn't ever seem to happen, and it was almost as though mentally, hindsight, not looking back, it was almost as though they gave the Denver defense a lot more credit. Well, not more, but they overstated what they were able to do, and what it did, it caused them as an offense to just go faster and not do things properly. You saw Mike Tolbert fumble the ball a couple times. You saw Cam get stripped by Von Miller, who, by the way, out of here. Not saying he's leaving Denver, but what I mean is awesome. And it's been for a while. I don't understand why people are acting like Von Miller is this is his coming out party. Von Miller he's been a beast. You know what I mean? Has been. He had some issues with suspensions and trying to scave drug tests and those type of things recently in the past. But nah, Von Miller's always been that dude since he came into the league. Now, the one thing that I also noticed, there seemed to be some indecision, even on a play where they didn't quite fumble it. They almost fumbled it on the zone read where Cam seemed to be riding Jonathan Stewart, riding the handoff for a very, very long time. And either he was trying to pull it or his hand got stuck. And when he was trying to bring it out, he pulled the ball out. And Jonathan Stewart actually had to gather the ball from behind him very awkwardly to keep from fumbling it. So they did a lot of shooting themselves in the foot early, which, once you start doing that, especially to a good defense or with a good defense, they begin to get a lot of they begin to feel inspired. And when Peyton Manning sees that, if you're the quarterback and you're Peyton Manning and you realize, and you guys saw that arm. You saw the arm he was throwing the football with last night. When you see that, it gives you the confidence to know that, yeah, hell yeah, on 3rd and 9, I can turn around and hand it off. Because you know what's going to happen? Yeah, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, those guys are going to happen. And they did. They showed up and played a hell of a ball game, man. And someone who definitely deserves a lot of credit is Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips, he gambled on the fact that Ron Rivera told everybody at the beginning of the 2-week, layoff between the championship games and the Super Bowl, that we just gonna do what we do, and we're gonna go out there. And I don't have a problem. Like today, everyone has a problem. No, he didn't change anything. Now, if he started changing things and it didn't work out, you'd be saying the opposite. I have no problem with that concept of basically dancing with the girl you brought. But again, you can't give extra possessions via the turnover, via the special teams plays, via the penalty. You can't do those things if what you're going to do is just believe that I can line up my 11 against your 11, and all things being equal, we'll beat you. That seemed to be the mentality. Wade Phillips said, you know what we're going to do? Yeah, everyone's giving Teddy Ginn Jr. and this other kid, I can't think of his name right now, and Devin Funches and Greg Olsen all this credit. What we're going to do, we're going to make sure you can't run the football, first and foremost, and we'll worry about the other stuff later. And here's something that I noticed yesterday that didn't really vibe with me. I felt as though that Cam Newton, even though DeMarcus Ware was sitting there at the line of scrimmage looking at him on those zone reads, I still felt that he could have at least tested him more times than he did. Pull the football and beat him to the corner. You know how I know those things work? Because when he was in Dallas, I saw RG3 just play with DeMarcus Ware on that same type of play like a damn puppet. Because even though he's sitting right there, and you're reading off of him, and he's not going, and he's not taking the dive, man, he still got to come from a total stop to a start to catch you, Cam Newton, who should be a better athlete than him. You at 26, him at 3 years old. You should be a better athlete and be able to beat him around the corner. And I just don't think that was attempted enough. Things like draws and screens. Once you're getting that heat from that pass rush, you got to do something. You got to do something to slow him down. And I don't think those things were incorporated either. That's not to say that, once again, Wade Phillips put together one hell of a game plan against what people have said is the most complex running game in the NFL. Now, to the offensive side of the football, I was talking about the Broncos. I felt early on in the game, their offensive line played with a mission. Connie Ealy had one of those type of games. 3 sacks, an interception, forced fumble. Yeah, he got off. But other than, it was all gravy, man. They did a good job of protecting Peyton Manning for the most part. They did a good job of moving people in the running game. Early on, I was like, yeah, that looked to be like my MVP, that whole line. And then Von Miller happened, and then that whole concept was out the window. So, yeah, it ended the way it ended, Carolina being a huge favorite to win this game. I think a 6-point favorite, a touchdown favorite on neutral field. I don't really know what all that means, but I hear people who bet on sports and football say that's a big deal. When you are in that situation, it's a pretty huge deal to be favored by a touchdown on a neutral field. People thought this was going to be one of those, getting it pushed in the way Seattle did to the Broncos a couple of years ago when they met in the Super Bowl. I felt like, Peyton Manning's going. He's looking at the same defense. I felt, good long rangy corner. As a matter of fact, Josh Norman he's been described as a more athletic Richard Sherman, and as smart and as aware. And you saw the way he played ball. Like, Josh Norman didn't go out there and lay no egg at all. You know what I mean? He went out there and he played Demaryius Thomas very well, understanding that he could give a step and still make ground, because Peyton Manning's ball, like, you try to jump with Cam Newton, it's a wrap. He's gonna zoom it right past you. You saw that on that play to Jericho Cotchery, in which they got a beautiful mismatch with Von Miller covering your wide receiver. It's a great play, making up the difference by Von Miller, but inevitably Jericho Cotchery got to make that catch. You know what I mean? Even the one that got overturned in the first quarter, which subsequently 2 plays later, the strip sack for the touchdown happened. When you kind of see the ripple effect of plays not being made. Yeah, the referees blew it, and Mike Carey, he's, I think ESPN shot him or something, because after that play, you heard nothing from him again. But But something else I tweeted, that I'd love to see him catch that on the first time. Then you don't even have the issue of the bobble or the ball touching the ground and moving or any of those things. I felt like it was a bad call. Yeah, the ball moved, but it didn't move because the ball hit the ground. It moved after his hand was under the ball and his hand hit the ground. And then he gained a possession after he rolled over a little bit and it bobbled a little bit. But, that being said, take it out of the referee's hands, man. I think Carolina had like 12 penalties or something like that. They just didn't play a very clean game. Other than Aqib Talib, and people wanted to talk about that a little bit today, but in reality, the Aqib Talib penalties didn't hurt anyone. It didn't hurt anything. They missed the field goal. I think that was the field goal they missed when he jumped off sides. The face mask at the goal line inevitably was a 1 yard penalty. He caught it at the 2, got slung. He got slung out of bounds by his face mask at the 2. It's half the distance, so you're at the 1 yard line. You saw the subsequent play where Jonathan Stewart leaped over everyone. He was in from 2 yards, so that didn't really matter. And then there was the other unsportsmanlike conduct penalty where I felt like it was ticky-tack. He was jawing with a dude. He was on his sideline, so he took his helmet off, but he was already on the sideline. So, I felt like you kind of just, as a referee, you run in there, you break it up, and you send everybody back to their corner. And you call it what it is, right? But for what it's worth, man, what happened yesterday it wasn't good football, but it wasn't somebody getting it. It wasn't that Cardinals thing that happened last week with the Panthers. Everyone sat out there and they competed, and I know, everyone wants to talk about the fumble at the end of the game where Cam didn't jump into the scrum. I thought they mentioned earlier that, and, after looking at social media all day today, I know people are looking for, Cam apologists and making excuses for Cam. I'm not. I felt that maybe he should have, gotten in there and put forth the effort. But, it's one of those things that if he doesn't feel like he should get it, if he could get the fumble, and as it was reported early in the game that he was having some problems with his left shoulder, I don't know. I think it's being nitpicky. I think that game gets lost anywhere. I think that game gets lost anyway just because of Denver's their defensive game plan. That along with, there were some drop balls. There were some calls on pass interference that weren't called, which, in reality, I don't think should have made that much of a difference, to be honest with you. Make catches, make plays. It's the biggest game of the year. Do what you've been doing all year. This team, the highest scoring offense in the league, scoring 10 points, that's got to be unacceptable. And it's a gamut. I was having a conversation with one of my former coworkers on social media, and it's one of those things where you really can't just sit there and say, well, it was Cam, well, it was the drop balls, it was the turnovers. Oh, no. Oh, this was a team loss. Yeah, no one played well. You got Luke Kuechly missing tackles. I didn't say no one because I already mentioned Connie Ely and Josh Norman. Those two guys played well, but you're talking 2 of 22. I think collectively as a group, even for whatever Peyton Manning didn't do, the other thing he didn't do, he didn't try to be the hero in the final game, and I do believe it's the final game of his career. He didn't try to be a hero. He understood what the greater goal was to make sure that he secured multiple touchdowns. Look at me. Multiple Super Bowls. And he did just that with a very pedestrian effort, a very Trent Dilferin effort, but who gives a damn? When he goes into the Hall of Fame in 5 years, you know what they're going to say? 2-time Super Bowl champion and 1,000,000-time league MVP and owner of record this, record that, record this, record that. Yeah. Nice ending, man. Not quite the storybook situation, but whatever. It's all about the team W and the team L's. You guys who want to give football play or quarterbacks wins and losses, this is why you can't. This is exactly why you don't. Because in no way did Peyton Manning win that game. It's One Mike with Big Mike. Big Mike here with you back off of a week-long hiatus. God, it feels good to be back in the chair in front of the mic. Spreaker.com is where you hear me. You can also get the Spreaker app for all of your mobile devices, so I do advise that you do that. And then follow my show after you sign up for your free Spreaker account. You can follow my show, the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. You can also follow me with that handle on Twitter and Instagram. Like my Facebook page at ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. On the other side of a very, very short break, my guy Alec Campbell. It is 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh. He's going to join me, and we're going to talk about what's going on, what happened post-game with Cameron Jarius Newton. I'll be right back.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzz driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Layla Ali. I might be undefeated in professional boxing, but there's one problem even I can't fight alone. Childhood hunger. Over 17 million kids in America may not know where their next meal is coming from. That's 1 in 5 children. Yet billions of pounds of surplus food produced right here in America just get thrown out every year. That's more than enough to feed every last hungry child. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to hungry kids before it goes to waste. But they can't do it without your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank by going to feedingamerica.org. Together we can knock out hunger. Together, we're Feeding America.
To help solve hunger in your community and to find your local food bank, visit feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back. Second half hour of One Mic with Big Mike. Big Mike here with you, being heard via Spreaker.com. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, live at 7 p.m. So make sure you guys tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, you guys make sure you follow me on Spreaker at the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. And also on Twitter and Instagram at the same handle. Like my Facebook page at ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, usually around this time, we take a look back into the annals of sports and do our daily feature called On This Day, but we have a special guest today, and we've been talking about Cameron Jarius Newton. We've been talking about the Super Bowl. We've been talking about the Super Bowl, but now we'll transition to talk about post-Super Bowl and the things that happened following the Super Bowl with both starting quarterbacks, with Peyton Manning, and of course with the polarizing, as people like to describe him, the polarizing Cam Newton. So right now, welcoming in one of my favorite people, my guy Alec Campbell from 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh, North Carolina. Not quite Charlotte, but close enough, right, Alec?
Yeah, 2.5 hours, not far.
What's the name of the show you produce up there so the people can holler at you?
It is the Adam and Joe Show.
Adam and Joe
It's
Show.
on, 3 to 7, Monday through Friday, 99.9 The Fan.
Yeah, Alec's the third voice and producer of that show. And so I told the people that you guys just got off the air. 7 o'clock, you guys just got off the air, probably took a bunch of calls about Cam Newton and the Super Bowl. And I want to first and foremost just kind of get the temperature, kind of gauge the temperature of the people locally. I mean, we hear all the stuff on ESPN and Fox Sports, the stuff that's going on nationally. But what is the temperature like locally?
Yeah, actually, we took more calls than we normally do. We don't really take a ton of calls, which I like.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Screw the callers.
Yeah. I don't think you'll be shocked by the answer to that question because, but people were, I think, a little bit more tempered than I was expecting them to be. I listened to some of the Charlotte radio this morning, and then just via our show on some of the other shows on our station. I mean, people were. You're talking about the post game, right?
In general, everything. The way he played, the way the post game went.
Yeah, I think people were not displeased with the way he played. A lot of people were making comments like, he looked tight or whatever. But, my stance on that is, when people are losing, generally they look tight or uninterested or no heart or whatever.
But didn't you feel that way from like the beginning? Just like some of the overthrows, the ball handling mistakes, it just seemed like it wasn't that same fun-loving, loose team from the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to say that that's not the case, but often it's overvalued, I think. But yeah, they never were able to really settle in. And they never seemed to be, right, like you say, as the loose bunch that they have been all year. And it's funny you bring up the first overthrow on that, 15-yard out he threw to Philly Brown or whatever, and he just airmailed it. And, looking back on it now, it kind of foreshadowed the rest of the game. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was kind of just, maybe just an adrenaline throw.
That's what I thought.
First throw of the game, and Cam Newton's, he's known for throwing high as it is, right? So when he misses. So the first time it's just like, okay, get it out of your system, whatever. But in the end, it kind of did foreshadow what the rest of the game, how the rest of the game went. But, I mean, although I didn't think he played that bad. I thought everyone around him played bad. I thought they had a couple of bad exchanges. I kind of wish that he would have gotten out on the run a little bit more often. Yeah. But look, man, he didn't elude any tackles either. Normally he gets away from two or three of them, and he didn't get away from anybody last night. And you got to credit the Denver defense. I mean, they were unreal.
Yeah, because what it felt like was like Denver had already rented a certain amount of space. The defense had already rented a certain amount of space in the collective minds of the Panthers offense. And when I say that, like you mentioned the first overthrow and thinking initially that may just be adrenaline, the game in and of itself. But when you see the other things, it was almost like they were sped up more than they are usually sped up as far as the ball handling on the zone reads, the throws. Everything was kind of sped up as though they were already thinking, this defense is a lot faster than the ones we've already faced. We've got to do things at a different pace. And that ended up hurting them in the end.
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, I also would have liked to have seen some more designed runs where they called Cam's number a little bit more. But, I also wonder how much of that is predicated on their ability to run the ball traditionally to begin with.
Right.
How much of that is set up by that. And they didn't run the ball that well. So, I wonder if in Mike Shula's mind he said, okay, we're not running the ball very well, so we're not going to call Cam's number because we haven't shown them anything. They're not threatened by it right now.
I felt like they should have tested DeMarcus Ware a little bit in the run game. I kind of wish they would have run. I was just talking about this with somebody else. Maybe gone to the screen game a little bit more. Mm-hmm. Slowed them pass rushers down.
They had to do something. They didn't. That's the thing. They didn't really do anything to neutralize the pass rush. They couldn't do anything effectively. And I mean, look, that's what Denver. That's the way they were going to win.
And there were times where Cam held the ball way too long, in my opinion.
Way too long.
It was almost as though he didn't play with the same amount of confidence in his receiver's ability to get that separation. So he was doing that thing where the quarterback will hold the football until he knows he's open. And by that time, against a defense like that, it's way too late. Yeah,
we've heard some of that too today, no doubt about it. But I mean, they also didn't give him much reason to be confident in them either.
Well,
they dropped
that.
They dropped so many damn passes last night. It was unbelievable.
But here's the thing, though. All year long, we've got to understand, and I want to get your opinion on this. Can we now kind of, in hindsight, well, not really hindsight to me, I mentioned this a couple of shows ago about the Panthers, maybe just kind of circumstances falling their way. Like when you look at their schedule, You're looking at them. They've got the NFC South. That's their schedule. They've got the NFC East this year, and they've got the AFC South. Those are some crappy-ass divisions, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if there was a team that was going to threaten go undefeated, it would be the team that played those three divisions. And so now in the final game, you realize, oh, damn, it is Philly Brown. It is Ted Ginn Jr. It is Jericho Cotchery. You know what I mean? You kind of realize that, it is these guys all along.
Yeah, I know, but I think at the same time, we also, all year long, we're going, man, these guys have really done a great job. So I don't want to go both ways on it. You know what I'm saying? And also, I think in the end, when you look at championship teams, one thing that they have in common is you got to make lemonade somewhere, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Like, because you're not going to go out and sign, 5 Kelvin Benjamins. That's just not feasible. So the good teams, you saw with the Seahawks a couple of years ago. You remember me and you talking about how many guys they ran throughout the season?
Oh, yeah.
As far as, like, bringing guys in and out. I mean, they turned every single rock over to find people, and they made guys, and they found guys that were going to get the job done that they didn't have to pay. So I think most championship teams have that type of makeup where they make lemonade out of some of these dudes. And, I mean, they were able to do that. I mean, and the other thing is, look, I mean, you look at the one stretch they had where I think they played the Seahawks on the road and came back and won. They beat the Packers at home, and I forget the other team that was in that stretch too. But it was a 3-week span where they played 3 really good teams and won. And so look, they can only play the games that are given to them.
This is true.
And you're right that and people have said that all year about the Panthers. Look at the schedule they played. But then they got into the playoffs and they ran straight. They ran all over people in the first half of the game. So I don't know how much stock I put in that. I really think that they just picked a bad day
to have the worst game. Yeah, to have their worst game.
And the funny thing about it is it was against the Broncos, who did the same thing 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
So
and worse. They did it worse, actually.
Yeah, and they did it worse. And so you know what that means, Mike, right? By osmosis, that means the Panthers win the Super Bowl in 2 years.
You're an idiot. I'm talking to Alec Campbell from 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh.
Overall,
he's the producer of the Adam and Joe Show. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So the other thing, though, is that, like, I think overall, I don't think, just to circle back around and answer the original question, I don't think people were that upset with Cam Newton. I think, at least from a game standpoint, I think they were much more upset with the drop passes, the penalties. They had 6 procedure penalties. They had a delay a game penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Guys not making plays. What else they had? They had Trey Turner had a dumb after the play
personal foul.
Personal foul.
Yeah.
I think Mike Tolbert hasn't fumbled all year. He fumbled twice last year. Luckily, got one back. Last night, luckily got one back. One of the few good runs they had, Mike Tolbert fumbled the ball. They had a special teams play that they somehow got fooled by a fake fair catch or thought the guy fair caught it and whatever.
Cat went 61 yards on him.
Again, it's a tip drill interception.
Let's switch gears real quick to the post game. Now, the title of this episode is They Don't Know. They just don't know. And in particular, what I'm talking about when it comes to Cam Newton, because everyone's had their opinion today about the way he conducted the post-game interview. And for those of you who don't know, if you don't pay attention to the post-game stuff when the game is over, Cam was very melancholy. He was described as pouting during the post-game, and he gave a bunch of sulking, giving a bunch of one-word answers. They're very, very dejected after the loss. Personally, it's one of the things that I particularly like about him, the fact that he wins hard and he loses just as – and I think the great ones have that in them. Like, it's just a matter of the fact that he outwardly expresses it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the one thing that I especially want to talk to you about, because you're my guy, Like, when we talk about, like, black and white relations, you and I have a bunch of, like, open conversations about these things. And I appreciate you for it. And I tell you that all the time. That the thing that wasn't brought up today is that there's something else behind Cam Newton's reaction to me. That feeling of not just letting his teammates down, not just letting himself down, not just letting his city down, but letting down a culture. You know, this is a dude where, like, dudes like Young Jeezy and Mike Epps and 2 Chainz is coming to the game to see him. Like, people look at Cam as the kid from the neighborhood that made it, and he's still representing. You know what I mean? He's not Russell Wilson, as a lot of people tried to say today. Like, look at the way Russell Wilson handled his interception. 2 totally different animals.
Saying that.
Yeah, 2 totally different animals. So I want to ask you from a white guy's perspective, had that concept ever entered your mind that may be a part of the level of disappointment that it seems like he's experiencing?
Yeah, no, that honestly didn't enter my mind today as far as him letting down a culture. Like, I just thought that he's just a guy who takes losses really hard. You know, like I don't think that he's like, to me, this doesn't make him a bad guy at all. You know, like, I think the two things are mutually exclusive. Like, he had a bad game. He didn't want to talk about it. First of all, he's fatigued from the media already. And you could see him getting more and more fatigued as Super Bowl week went on. So the loss definitely didn't help. I kind of wonder if he was worried about what his emotion would make him say about other people, and maybe it was a more calculated move by him than we think it is.
The walking off the stage, you mean?
In terms of him saying, like, look, if I sit up here and start talking, I'm going to say something that's going to be a bigger problem, you know? But, I just, look, I think that you can't bring up the stuff that he brought up and then leave and then not expect people to talk about it today. You know what I'm saying? Then walk out the stage and be able to talk about it today. You know, they're going to talk about you for doing that.
Right.
Whether you're right or wrong, you know, I mean, they're going to give you crap for it. I think one of the funnier things I heard today was I heard Deion Sanders on First Take last week.
Oh, 2 bad decisions.
Because they were talking about. Yeah, I know. You're right. I don't even know why I was listening, but I did. But it was after Cam made his comments about being an African American and people don't, you know, it's something that they haven't seen before, you know. And Deion was saying, well, look, man, you know, because everybody wanted to pigeonhole him as a, you know, this is what Brady would do and this is what Manning would do. You wouldn't see them dancing and dabbing and whatever, you know. And Deion was like, look, he's not Brady and he's not Manning. But then today, he's going, Tom Brady and Peyton Manning wouldn't have walked off that stage.
Can't have it both ways.
Know? And it's like, yeah, you can't have it both ways, brother.
It's a total package. I mean? Like, if you're gonna praise him for being who he is, allow him to be who he is all the time.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Look, I like Cam. I think Cam is he's the next superstar of the league if he's not already. I mean, I like the fact that he gets out there and has a good time. I think the problem that people have with him more than anything is that his on-field demeanor is kind of a departure from the guy he really is. Like, I think Cam's a really smart dude. He's a really philanthropic dude. He's good with kids. I think he's a good all-around dude. Like, he's a good dad. He's a good boyfriend or fiance or whatever he is to his woman right now. You know, from all that you can tell. So then when you see a guy get on the field and dance and celebrate and do all that stuff, you know, it's kind of like why relationships end up breaking up all the time. You know, because all of a sudden, somebody ain't who they said they were. You know, like all of a sudden somebody wants to be a swinger, you know, and old girl wasn't really ready for that.
There we go.
You know what I'm saying? So,
into the old Alec Campbell playbook with that one.
yeah. So then, you see a guy who's like a really philanthropic, really smart dude get on the field and get ratchet, and people are like, what's going on here? You know what I mean?
But I think that's more of people's problems and understanding that.
Yeah,
I call it the athlete bubble. Like, we always want to put our athletes in these bubbles, even athletes like Peyton Manning. Like, Peyton Manning's washed up. But people always want to say stuff like, oh, the Peyton of old, you ain't seen that in 2 years. Stop. I don't give a damn if he completes an out route. It still was wobbly, and it took an hour to get there.
Yeah.
You're not going to see that no more. But what we do mentally is we put these athletes in these bubbles, and we try to keep them preserved as the person we always knew them to be. And the same thing with Cam Newton. We want to make him, or people want to make him be what they think he should be. Because I said it the other day.
Well, they've already defined what a quarterback should be.
And he got them fooled.
You know what I mean?
Because this ain't Mike Vick with dreads, with braids and tattoos. This is a dude who wears like thousands of dollars suits with his clean cut face, no earrings, no tattoos. It's like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be that guy on the field, but look like that.
Right.
And he's right. It's a different animal, and people right now still don't know how to approach it. Now, let me address something that you said just a few seconds ago, as we got a couple minutes left here with my guy Alec Campbell from 99.9, The Fan in Raleigh, producer of the Adam and Joe Show. Is that right?
Yeah.
Adam and Joe Show. Now, you mentioned that Cam was going to be the next superstar. Here's what I kind of cautioned the people. One of the things I cautioned the people on a couple of episodes ago was that there once was a guy named Colin Kaepernick. And one of the things that was said about him, the big, strong, fast guy, and his team had the most complex run game in the league. Remember that? And then there was an offseason. Yeah. And the people who get paid to figure this stuff out, they figure that stuff out. And I'm always wondering, then what's the next evolution for Cam Newton? Because, the run game is very complex. And it's hard to adjust to certain things during the season for guys when you have a couple of days to prepare for a team and put together a game plan. But down in New Orleans, right here in Atlanta, in Tampa, guys are going to be working tirelessly to find the key that opens that door to solving the riddle, which is the Panthers' run game, which means that Cam Newton has to do what the other great ones do, stay a step ahead. Okay, you caught me to this point, but watch the next thing I do, and watch the next thing I do. And I'm asking you as a guy who's in the area, is this something that's being talked about, or is it just an assumption that this team and this quarterback is built to continuously do what they do for quite some time?
Well, I mean, I think that the one thing that we've been talking about a lot throughout the season is the progression that Cam has made as a passer. Mm-hmm. I mean, those of us that get to watch him week in and week out, it's very easy to see that. So I think that while a lot of people see the highlight plays and they see the running game, really the offense is really a tough thing to stop because they can do everything pretty well.
Right.
I mean, Cam Newton's become a much better passer. He's gotten a lot more freedom to make adjustments, and he's shown the ability to do that. I wouldn't say he's still, he's great mechanically. You still see him throwing off the back foot a lot, whatever. But he has become more accurate. You see him looking off safety. All those things, sight adjustments. Mm-hmm. All those things that people talk about that make, the quarterback the quarterback. You know what I mean? So I think from that standpoint, they're going to, as long as Cam can continue to be diligent in that area. Look, we all know he's going to be a runner. He's an elusive guy. He's a big dude.
Right.
He's as athletic as they come. I mean, dude, I've said this to you before. He's 6'5", 240 or whatever playing football. LeBron James 6'8", 250 playing basketball is amazing to me.
Yeah.
Cam Newton, he's gonna run with the football. He's gonna escape tackles. But what has separated him this year from years past is the ability in the passing game. So I think as long as he stays diligent there, that they'll be able to stay ahead of the curve in terms of, what other teams are able to learn about them and make adjustments for them,
No doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Alec Campbell. He is the producer of the Adam and Joe Show on 99.9, The Fan in Raleigh, being kind enough to join his boy and help me out tonight, give me some perspective on all the things that's going on with the Carolina Panthers as they lose the Super Bowl 24-10 to the Denver Broncos yesterday. Alec, as usual, my man, appreciate you looking out. And, I'll holler at you.
I appreciate you, Mike. Have a good one, brother.
You too, man. All right, so when we get back, we're going to do our daily thing we do. We bumped it a little bit on this day. We're going to take a look back, but I'm going to continue this conversation because I want to talk a little bit more about Cameron Jarius Newton, the things that seem to be circling him right now, and then the next evolution, and some of the things that are being said not only about him. Well, yeah, the things that are being said about him on the field and off the field, and what my perspective is on it. You know what I mean? We just got through talking to Alec Campbell, guy I've known for some time now. We used to produce here in Atlanta on some local radio here in Atlanta. Very, very good guy, very knowledgeable, very, as you can tell, speaks well of the sport, and he sees things that people outside of the Charlotte, the North Carolina, Raleigh, that area don't necessarily get to see all the time because he covers the team. And I'm always, I talked about earlier, this part of the season, or now the off season, this part of the year where it's time for teams to improve. And I mentioned earlier the teams that aren't that good improving, but also the teams that are that good. These final two teams figuring out what it takes to maintain that, because if you're listening in Raleigh, if you tuned in to hear your guy Alec Campbell, here's some bad news for you. Charlotte, Raleigh, North Carolina, if you're a Panthers fan, wherever you are in the world, if you're listening to this on Spreaker.com, in the Spreaker app, understand this. In the last, I think, decade, when a team has lost the Super Bowl, they haven't gone back the next year. When Denver lost, a couple of years later. Seattle lost last year. No. Right? At the crib. So, to assume in this, and when you look at a guy like Cam, be as dejected as he is, Cam's not an idiot. I don't think he is. And I mentioned that only to say that Dan Marino in his first year saw the Super Bowl and didn't see it not now time again in the next 2 decades of him playing NFL football. I don't know if it's quite 2 decades, but you get my point. Didn't make it back. It seemed like, yeah, we got this great team. We'll be back again. No, sir. It ain't that easy. That's when I hear people talk about, and I understand why it's spoken about where guys like Peyton Manning only have one. But like you say only, it's like, damn. I understand the difference in, the fact that you kind of need to separate yourself. As a great quarterback, you want to separate yourself from, the Trent Dilfers and the Brad Johnsons of the world. These guys have one also. But you want to take yourself to the next level and get into that other conversation by winning multiple. I do understand that. But in no way, shape, or form should it be minimized how damn hard it is to win one football game in the NFL, much less win the biggest of them all. That's another thing. We're going to come back. We're going to get into hour number 2, continue the conversation about the things that shook out from yesterday's football, in particular, the things that shook out as it relates to Cameron Jarius Newton. We'll also do our daily look back on this day. And I got some other NFL stuff that I want to talk about, too. I read a very interesting Facebook post by a local radio host here named Ryan Cameron. He's also the voice of the Atlanta Hawks. And it was very intriguing to me. You know what I mean? As far as where fanhood should start and stop, or should it bleed into other areas or other teams within the same sport? It's very intriguing. I want to have a discussion about that, and we'll do that. Well, I'll do that coming up right here on One Mic with Big Mike.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
I heard on the news about that 5-year-old who found his uncle's gun. The kid didn't know it was loaded.
I heard on the news about that 14-year-old girl who was bullied online for like a year. She couldn't take it anymore, so she got her dad's gun from his nightstand.
I heard on the news about that guy who broke into someone's house, stole a gun from the hall closet.
He accidentally shot his cousin in the head.
She killed herself.
And later, killed the owner of the store he was trying to rob.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearms storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
One mic.
All I need is one mic.
What's the name of the show?
One mic with Big Mike.
You know, ain't nobody getting hurt, ain't nobody, there's no crime being committed.
And they say his style is too urban for the radio.
This is real life stuff that's happened to me.
Well, you know what?
You, and you.
One mic with Big Mike.
I like to be able to do what I want to do.
A sports talk show, but no subject matter is off limits.
Meek Mill's concert is not called the Hell Yeah I Bang Khloe Kardashian concert.
And now, your host.
Put your hands together for the one, the only
Big Mike.
All I need is one mic.
Back with hour number 2 of the post-Super Bowl, some of you may call it Super Bowl Monday edition of One Mic with Big Mike, being heard right here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. on Spreaker.com. That's SPREAKER.com. Please sign up for your free Spreaker account. Once you do that, follow my show, the number one, MICWITHBIGMIKE, and give me some likes and some listens and all those kind of things. Share it with your friends. I'm assuming you guys got more than one. Also, use that same handle for my Twitter and Instagram. Give me some follows there as well. And like my Facebook page and comment on it, and, I don't know, post to it. ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. Now, I've been talking a lot about the Super Bowl. Spent the first hour talking about the actual game itself and how it played out and my thoughts as it pertained to, what they both teams, I mean, the Panthers and Broncos did to lose and win the game, respectively. In the second half hour of the show, my guy, Alec Campbell, one of my favorite dudes, joined me from 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh. He's the executive producer. He's the producer of the Adam and... God, it just went out of my mind that fast. He's the executive producer of the 3 to 7 show on 99.9 The Fan. He's the third voice that you hear on the show. And we chopped it up a bunch about Cam, about the perception of how everything played out via the game and the post game as well. The post game interview didn't live up to a lot of people's expectations, and I say shame on you for having those expectations. You know what I mean? You show me a good loser, my friends just show you a damn loser. So right now, before we continue the conversation, the Cam Newton Super Bowl conversation, as well as some more NFL things, I'm going to take a quick look back into the annals of sports, and we call it On This Day. I call it on. I got to remember to start saying I and not we. Sorry, that's not the right thing. That's not the right the right part of the imaging. It's Monday. See, it's what happens when you take a week off. Anyway, on this day in 1936, the National Football League, the first National Football League draft was held. Jay Berwanger was the first to be selected. He went to the Philadelphia Eagles. On this day in 1950, the Associated Press named Jim Thorpe and Baby Didrikson Zaharias the greatest male and female athletes of the first half of the 20th century. On this day in 1963, Lamar Hunt, we all know about the Lamar Hunt Trophy given to the winner of the AFC in the NFL. He was at that point the owner of the American Football League franchise in Dallas, Texas. They ended up moving that operation to Kansas City. The new team was named, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. On this day in 1983, Wayne Gretzky, the great one, he set the NHL All-Star record of 4 goals in one period with 4. I'm sorry, I did say 4 already, didn't I? On this day in 1984, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar broke Wilt Chamberlain's record of 12,681, it says goals. I'm going to say points. Maybe it's field goals. He scored 15. Why does it say goals? It must be points. I'm going to say field goals. He scored 15,836 field goals before retiring. Excuse me. Gee whiz. In 1989. All right. If you haven't seen that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar documentary on HBO, it's a must-see. The Minority of One, I think is the name of it. And his relationship with Wilt Chamberlain, from being a kid who idolized Wilt to then being an adversary, and the things that Wilt said and did in regards to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is, it's some bad guy stuff. A-Town, stand up in 1986. Anthony Spud Webb, all 5'7" of him, of the Atlanta Hawks. He won the NBA Slam Dunk competition when the Slam Dunk competition was worth a damn, which now it isn't. Where am I at? On this day in 1996, the NFL and Cleveland allowed Art Modell to move his NFL franchise to Baltimore. The caveat was that he had to leave the Browns name behind. Like many of you probably don't know that the Browns that we know of, the Johnny Manziel, we'll talk about Johnny Manziel here in a little while. The Browns that you currently know is actually an expansion team. Yes, after the team moved to Baltimore, they changed the name to the Ravens and proceeded to then win a championship. I think 2, as a matter of fact. So, sucks to be Cleveland. And finally, on this day in 1998, the first female ice hockey game in Olympic history was played. Finland beat Sweden 6-0. You're Sweden. Who cares? Whatever you're good at. I think Sweden got fined. No, they don't, because I think Tiger Woods' old lady is from Sweden, right? Anyway, that is your Monday post-Super Bowl edition of On This Day. I'm going to try to get this damn imaging taken care of for you guys by tomorrow. I did something that I shouldn't have done. I saved something over my imaging, and because I wasn't paying attention, it sounded terrible. Anyway, back to yesterday. Back to the Super Bowl. Back to what we saw. Like I said, we just got through talking to my guy Alec Campbell of 99.9 The Fan in Raleigh about, some of the things that are being said locally about the team. Cam Newton specifically, and the question I asked him was, from the perspective of, I'm asking him I basically asked him to speak for white American and white sports media, white people in sports media. Seeing as though the name of, or the title of this show is, they don't know. They just don't know. And I felt, and I saw it coming, man. I saw it coming a mile away, and I warned you guys. I warned you, man, that this whole thing about Cam Newton, him being a black quarterback, this ain't 1989 no more, man. Like, this is where a couple of years when RG3 was like, I just want to be known as a quarterback. Because it's kind of like, we need, like black people, we need to help people get past that. You know what I mean? Because when things happen like what happened today, certain words are thrown out there. Immature, lack of leadership. Like all the things that for years and years and decades, that big broad brush that was painted, that Warren Moon, and Doug Williams and Randall Cunningham and what was his name? Vince Evans, the longtime Oakland Raider, that these guys were painted with. You know, before we saw the Dante Culpeppers and the Mike Vicks and people of that nature. And now, you know, moving on a little bit, we got like the Russell Wilson, you know, RG3 had a splash in the water for a minute. Cam Newton. The problem is that the problem with painting with such a large brush is this. Guys like Tom Brady, guys like Peyton Manning, from the time they were kids, they were groomed to be and play quarterback a certain way. Where I'm from, in Atlanta, Georgia, your quarterback was just one of the other guys. So the things that the wide receivers did, the things that the corners did, the things that the safeties and the DNs did, the quarterbacks did too. They celebrated. They did the dances and all that kind of stuff. And Cam Newton is a product of that. Russell Wilson isn't. I think didn't Russell Wilson go to like a prep school in Virginia and follow that by going to North Carolina State and Wisconsin. That's not his makeup. And it's not me saying anything is right, wrong, or indifferent about it. It's just pointing out the fact that when you start saying that, well, Russell Wilson did this way and that and other, the other thing, if you want to be real nitpicky about it, Russell Wilson kind of blamed God. That interception last year, like he kind of like in a way, not even in a way, he blamed God. He said God caused that interception to happen because he needed to teach Russell Wilson a lesson. You know what I mean? So if you really want to get nitpicky about it and talk about people not taking responsibility, yeah, he said both. He said it was God, and he also said that, you know, it's on me, and a lot of people felt like it was the play call, and whatever. The overall point is that everybody don't handle situations in the same way. Everybody is not groomed in that way, nor do I feel like everyone should be. You know what I mean? Like, if Cam Newton's personality is a guy who is either the blackest black you've ever seen, or the whitest, brightest white that you've ever seen, and there's hardly any gray in him, well, that's just what it is. You know, you're talking about a guy who wins hard. When he wins, he enjoys it. You know, and it pisses people off. But you saw what he said in the commercial, right? Too bad they don't make Band-Aids for feelings. You know what I mean? And all year long, the one of the mantras have been, if you don't want us to dance, then stop us. Well, kudos to the Broncos. Their defense, okay, challenge accepted. We don't want you to dab, and we don't want you to dance, so we will stop you. And they did. Period, point blank. And so all the people, man, and this is a societal thing. All the people that were waiting in the wings, waiting, game after game after game. Excuse me, waiting for these guys to lose. So you finally got what you wanted. But really, how much enjoyment can you really feel in that or get from that? The fact that they lost the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? This is like it's two teams left. You got a 50-50 chance of winning. They happen to come out on the bottom end of that 50. Is that really something to be like, aha? That is an accomplishment in and of itself. You know what I mean? I remember talking to Thurman Thomas some years back and telling him that as I got older and as I realized, and I talked to more and more athletes and realized, got some perspective on how hard it was to win football games in the NFL. The fact that the Bills, Thurman Thomas's former team, they went through that gauntlet 4 times, man, and came out AFC champions. Champions. You are a champion when you come out of your conference. They did it 4 times consecutively. Like people might want to look at the wide right or the Cowboys blowouts and all these type of things and say, well, yeah, this team lost 4 straight Super Bowls. Oh my God. It's the Super Bowl. You have to be a champion. They present you with a trophy on a stage and all that good stuff. You got to be a champion before you even get there. So this is not Dwight Howard saying, no matter what happens, I'm still a champion. No, you're not, because you didn't win nothing. These guys actually won something. They actually accomplished something coming out of their conference. So for all the people who sat there and, have fun is fun. You know what I mean? Like the Michael Jordan cry face is hilarious to me. It's probably gonna be funny forever. But then there's this bit of vitriol. Like the people who start talking about like karma and that's what you get. Look, I'm a person who I've said this for years and years and years. When white America, in particular the white sports media, and I know I'm generalizing, but stick with me here. When they have an opportunity to what I call criminalize an athlete who, for all intents and purposes, there's no criminality to be linked to him. The reason this came up some years back was because of what was going on at Ohio State with Terrell Pryor, and I kept hearing terms like, what he did was illegal, and I kept saying, you're an idiot. Nothing about him trading his property for a service in America is illegal. What it is it breaks a very dumb, antiquated NCAA rule, which are two entirely different things. But it's easier to try to make it seem like there's a criminal element involved. You saw the remnants of it this past weekend with the NFL Hall of Fame inductees, right? Let's see if I can remember these. I can't. I'm not going to. I have them here somewhere. Tony Dungy got in. Kevin Green got in. Marvin Harrison got in. Of course, Brett Favre, he got in first ballot. Eddie DeBartolo, the I guess we call him the orchestrator of the San Francisco teams, those great San Francisco teams back in the day. Who am I missing here? I said Kevin Green, or Big Orlando Pace, Ken Stabler, who I'm not young enough or old enough to have seen Ken Stabler play, but for a lot of people, in a lot of people's perspective, he's not a Hall of Famer. People who've seen him play and know he won a bunch of games, but when you look at his numbers, and you kind of can't really do the whole period by period numbers thing. But I just heard people talk about him and say, and a lot of people actually knew that when he died last year, that he's going to finally get in for the simple fact that he died. I don't know this, but it happened. Dick Stanfield, a guard from the 50s, got in. And the guy who's missing is Terrell Owens, a guy who, like I'm saying, is the remnants of a guy who he had a big mouth. He had a big mouth. He rubbed some people the wrong way, and he was criminalized basically for that. He was treated as though he was one of those people. Like I've seen him on lists, when they talk about taking chances on players with risky behavior. It was with the Cowboys. They were talking about Tank Johnson, who went to jail, who has been to jail. Pac-Man Jones, who's been arrested many a times. And then Terrell Owens was on the list. It's like, come on, man. One of these things don't belong. Just because guys like Ed Werder want to use the term cancer when it comes to a guy like Terrell Owens doesn't make him a bad human being. And it doesn't. And here's the other thing, too. The NFL Hall of Fame is full of crap. Because in reality, the rules specifically state that it only has to do with on-field things. Marvin Harrison getting in his third year. Wonder why people say Marvin Harrison was a nice guy. Google Marvin Harrison, Philadelphia, shooting. Put those things in Google and watch what comes up. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's the ones you least suspect. just know that. So, yeah. Back to Cam Newton, he's in the process of that happening right now. I call it Operation Teardown because it's what happens. They build up. I don't see anything wrong with the way Cam is. People should just accept him for what he is. And when I start hearing that way too much, it's almost like a fake white flag. Like, all right, we give up. We don't have anything to say about this dude. With the understanding that we will. Eventually something will happen. No matter how minuscule, that thing yesterday at the press conference, minuscule. And people are now trying to figure out is it because he heard Chris Harris talking about the strategy that they used to shut the offense down? He could hear it while he was answering the question. Nah, seemed like he wasn't feeling that junk in the first place. No, answer was like, nah, yeah, we lost. They outplayed us. Answers like that. He's pissed, man. He had an opportunity, to do something so special. And it left him. And I talked with Alec Campbell last half hour about whether white America really, really understands the weight, the societal weight, not from a certain sector, black people, that was placed on Cam Newton. You know, that thing that we do in the black community where, there's something good, and he has the same skin color I have. Let me latch onto it and tell everyone how I knew all along that he was going to be great. And one of the things I stand for, man, very, very, very vehemently, is that you just can't go that hard for anyone. Even if you're related to Cam, you can't go that hard. Because eventually he's human and eventually he will fail. And a lot of those same people that was all on the Cam, let's call it bandwagon for lack of a better word, couldn't wait to do the memes and, here's what Carolina Panthers fans look like and all this kind of stuff. When in reality, you turned yourself into one. And I don't really know what all the rules are to fandom and all that kind of stuff. I think it's weird. You know what I mean? I think, attaching yourself to an organization that benefits you really in no way. You know what I mean? Like, if they went away, you'd live. Like, look at St. Louis. They're going to live. You know what I mean? When the Chargers leave, those people in San Diego, they're going to go on with their lives. You know what I mean? This whole wanting to escape from the rigors of life and using 24 to 30-year-old men to do it. And then when they don't produce that escape for you, then you release all your vitriol. Yeah. I hope some of you are hearing me and understanding that, yeah, damn, that does sound weird when you put it that way, because it is. It's weird, man. And at some point, it would seem like people would grow out of it, but like people get even more invested, man. And I bring that up to bring up something else that I saw on, I don't know, maybe it was Friday or Saturday on Facebook. A guy I used to work with. He's a local radio, a morning show host. He's also the voice of the Atlanta Hawks, the in-house voice of the Hawks. A guy named Ryan Cameron. He posted something on Facebook the other day, and it was kind of a scolding. Not kind of, it was a scolding to the people of Atlanta, Georgia, who weren't going to root for Cam. The people who, for the most part, you can assume that a lot of them are Falcons fans, and of course the Carolina Panthers play in the same division as the Carolina Panthers, which, if you want to get into it, it's kind of a conflict of interest if you're a fan. I would assume that's how that works. That being said, he kind of went on this thing about how people still support like Ludacris and Outkast, and why not Cam Newton? And I felt like it seemed like the question that answered itself. You know what I mean? I'm gonna tell you why not Cam Newton. Like, initially, before I read that, I was struggling with like, damn, how does that work? How are you a Falcons fan and rooting for Cam Newton? Because for those of you who don't know, Cam Newton is from the Metro Atlanta area. He went to school at a high school called Westlake High School. He's from College Park, Georgia. But saying that people should be ashamed of themselves for not rooting for him, it felt a little bit much. Like, I don't know, because I watched the game to watch a good football game, for the final game of the year to be a good football game. Anything else, I could either do or with it or without it, to be honest with you. But I felt that post was so, it was intriguing to me. It absolutely was, because the fact of the matter is this, like Cam Newton wasn't the only player in that game that had Atlanta ties. So, like, where do you draw the line? Is it because he's the quarterback and because he's black? You should. Because then what about Demaryius Thomas? He's from Georgia. He went to school at Georgia Tech. A guy like Vance Walker as well. Lou Young. Stephen Hill is still a member of the Carolina Panthers football team. Do you then kind of split your allegiances then, and you kind of root for Bebe, Demaryius Thomas, or I don't understand how that works. Now, I don't understand why it should. If you do, you do. Because there's this thing around here. I guess it's everywhere. People, kind of the shame of being a bandwagon fan. I don't know. I didn't care if Cam Newton and the Panthers won or not. I'm a fan of history. I would have loved to see this kid, win a national championship in junior college, win the national championship, Heisman Trophy at Auburn, turn around, win Rookie of the Year, win the MVP this year, and then turn around and win a Super Bowl MVP and the Super Bowl championship. I would have loved to see that stuff. I love history being made, in my presence. But if it doesn't happen, I'll be all right. I'll be cool. Peyton Manning made some history as well. 200 wins total, most in NFL history. Oldest quarterback to win a Super Bowl, first quarterback to win a Super Bowl, or go to a Super Bowl with, 4 different coaches and win it with 2 different teams. Yeah, history was made. It may not have been the history that you wanted it to be, but, if you guys want to see this, you guys can go to see what Ryan Cameron wrote. You guys can go to my Facebook page at ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. And like I say, it's just very, very, he's quoting things from the Bible. He's saying that you're never a prophet in your own land. To me, Cam Newton is just like any other person who leaves home and begins a life. If you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're a teacher, if you're a radio personality, when you leave your home to to go to college, one, and then after college you get a job in a different city, well, that becomes your city. That becomes your home. Cam Newton signed a nice long contract to be the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers for a while. His son, his brand new baby boy, was born there. That's his home now. Now, of course, yeah, he's from Atlanta, but I don't look at his situation any different than I would anybody else in any other profession that now lives somewhere else and considers that to be their home. For a lot of times, like my former my former co-host used to always say, like, man, why Cam ain't doing all that stuff he's doing in Charlotte, in Atlanta? Well, guess what? Cam is now a resident of Charlotte. You know what I mean? He makes his home here, of course. Or he's from here. His parents are still here. But Cam is a resident of Charlotte, North Carolina now. And if you choose to claim him, fine. But if you don't, I don't think you should be ridiculed or you should be, raked over the coals for, how dare you not root for Cam Newton? He's from Atlanta. There are plenty of people from Atlanta. I just mentioned 4 that played in the same game. But the same, that same vitriol wasn't there for that. And this is why I was talking to Alec about that unseen pressure by white America that's put on this dude to perform and represent the hood and represent where you from. When in actuality, man, just do it for you. Do it for your teammates. Do it for the dudes that's grinding with you each and every day. Do it for them. I don't need Cam to do that for me. You know what I mean? I just really don't. It's One Mic with Big Mike. We've got a half hour left in the show. I'm going to run through a couple more of these NFL stories and see how much other stuff we can get to as well. I want to tell you guys, update you guys on the next prospect that you probably should be looking for if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, to try to get your team into the Super Bowl next year. And we'll do all that coming up right here on One Mic with Big Mike.
I heard on the news about that 5-year-old who found his uncle's gun. The kid didn't know it was loaded.
I heard on the news about that 14-year-old girl who was bullied online. For like a year, she couldn't take it anymore, so she got her dad's gun from his nightstand.
I heard on the news about that guy who broke into someone's house, stole a gun from the hall closet.
He accidentally shot his cousin in the head.
She killed herself.
And later, killed the owner of the store he was trying to rob.
If you own a gun, you have a full-time responsibility. When you aren't using it, be sure it can't get into the hands of curious children, troubled teenagers, a thief, or anyone else who might misuse it. Your family, friends, and neighbors are all counting on you. Remember, always, lock it up. For more information on firearm storage safety, visit ncpc.org. This message brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, and the Ad Council.
Attention men under the age of 35. You know what really impresses the ladies? When a guy has a few drinks and later gets pulled over for buzzed driving. That could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. There goes let's grab dinner and a movie. Oh, I know. You drive more carefully when you're buzzed. You've proven that hundreds of times. A woman admires that kind of confidence. And you've practiced how to speak if a cop does pull you over. Slowly, clearly, and politely like, "Good evening, officer." A woman admires that kind of foresight. And what woman doesn't find it adorable that you call it buzzed even though the law calls it drunk? You could kiss $10,000 goodbye, along with any chance of having a girlfriend. Because nothing says, "I'm a catch," more than a guy who lives in his parents' basement and calls it my place.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the final half hour of One Mic with Big Mike, the post-Super Bowl Monday edition of One Mic with Big Mike. You guys make sure you check me out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on Spreaker.com and the Spreaker app. Also, make sure you sign up for your free Spreaker account and follow my show, the number 1 MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. Use that handle as well for Twitter and Instagram. Like my Facebook page at ONEMIC, WITHBIGMIKE. All One Mic with Big Mike. The only thing different about the Facebook, of course, you don't use the number 1, you spell the number out, ONE. All right, just saw this during the break. The real reason Cam Newton left the Super Bowl press conference. It says for the first time in no NFL history, a post-game press conference was held where the quarterback of the losing team was being interviewed right next to the key defensive player of the opposing team. The reason Cam may have had his hood up on the now famous Panther sweatshirt may have been to block out the insults. Here's what Cam was hearing right before the interview, and then there's a video clip. Denver corner Chris Harris, who has been vocal about Cam in the past, is talking about Cam's performance right in Cam's ear. Instead of hearing the interviewers, Cam was hearing Chris yell, "Throw the ball. You can throw the ball. Can you throw the ball?" All right, I thought this was something else. It's the same story. It's the same story of him hearing Chris Harris talk about the strategy that it took to beat them. You know, I don't think a lot of people are saying, you know, there's a lot of excuse making being done for Cam Newton. I don't think that's an excuse for walking off the stage. I don't know that that's a thing. But what I do feel is that, if he so inclines to do that, so be it. Who gives a damn what Russell Wilson? I even heard today, what did Steve McNair do after a crushing loss? All right, let's not go down that road. Steve McNair is one of my favorite. He's a guy who was a part of my youth, basically. You know, Steve McNair, former Titans quarterback, the late Steve McNair, former Titans quarterback out of Alcorn State University. Now, if you want to start doing comparisons, don't stop there. You know, because for everything that we know and love about Steve McNair, he died in one of the most family-crushing ways possible. He was hanging out with his side piece, I guess trying to break it off. Young chick. She ends up pulling out a gun, blowing him away as well as herself, leaving his woman, his wife, and his kids to answer all kind of crazy questions that they can never get the answer to because he's dead. To this point, we don't know of any situation like that involving Cameron Jarius Newton. So again, let's kind of chill with the comparisons on the men you think people are versus what they are on the football field. Let's keep it there. Because if you look deep enough into anyone, the very, very few people are the same people to everybody. Like I heard somebody say, Colin Cowherd, I think, said he talked to a dude who's dealt with Cam 3 times. And it's like, oh, he's fake. He's not the same person that you see when the camera's on as when it's off. Yeah, neither is freaking Will Smith. You know what I mean? Come on, man. That can't be the judge or how we judge people. Very few people, I feel, I don't know what to be fact, but very few people in the public eye that you're going to find out are as genuine. And we talk about people being genuine, I don't think it gets any more genuine than Cam's postgame, man. I don't think it gets any more genuine than that. Not Peyton Manning, who has the company line memorized, and you watch him repeat it 3 separate times in virtually the same way. I'm going to go drink a bunch of Budweisers, I'm going to kiss my wife, and I'm going to send a message to the man upstairs. Peyton, what are you going to do? Rinse, wash, rinse, repeat. Peyton, what are you going to do? Wash, rinse, repeat. So let's really not walk down that road when it comes to people being fake or disingenuous. Because it doesn't matter to me. Yeah, play ball. Do that, and I'm going to be all right. Yeah, I'm going to be fine. Just play ball. Anyway, some other things came out while I was gone, even yesterday as well. Some retirements, some greats. Decided to hang it up. Calvin Johnson, Megatron, decided that, you know what? I got enough loot. I don't need to keep bashing my head into other grown men for a living. I'm good. I'm going to move on to the second phase of life. While so many people wanted to treat it like it was a death. My God. Like, when you hear, oh, Calvin, please. Somebody said if I was Matthew Stafford, I'd be at this door begging him to stay. Come on, man. The league moves on. That's the beautiful thing about late April, early May, whenever the draft is this year, that you have 7 rounds, 32 picks apiece. Well, this year, 1 round I have 31 because the Patriots don't get one from Deflategate. But you get my point of straight turnover in the NFL, where a bunch of youth and vibrance and athleticism comes into the league. And then guys like, Peyton Manning leave because he's old. Guys like Marshawn Lynch leave because I'm tired of my body getting beat up. I'm a running back. I already got the Seahawks for that, what was it, third contract that I wanted. Put my loot away. I'm good. I'm going to walk. The team has already moved on, in essence. Some dude, Thomas Rawls, going to get paid under $1 million to bash his head into people next year. Cool. Marshawn's going to walk away, go back to the Bay and be cool. Calvin Johnson, same thing. I don't know if he's going to stay in where he's at in Detroit or come back to the A. He's made plenty of money. And if the NFL wants to be worried, like no one, when Chris Borland and Patrick Willis and some of these guys, that offensive lineman who was like, I gotta let my brain rest. No one, everybody kind of just brush it off like, these guys are retiring. They got reasons to retire. Whatever. Yeah. These cats are getting smarter. They're understanding the reality that they're facing as their playing careers come to an end and life has to start. And they're understanding some of the things that guys who did play as long as they could possibly physically play, the things that they're going through now. And a lot of that was because the money wasn't the same 20 years ago. Now, dudes are getting $50, $100 million contracts, $50 mil, $40, $30 mil up front. Yeah. Like Cass is changing their family lineages. if they do it right. You know what I mean? They do it correctly. Dudes is changing their family lineages. Heard Gronkowski a couple months ago, maybe. He's like, he don't even touch his check. His Patriots check, he don't even touch it. He only spend his endorsement money. Yeah. So when it's time to bounce, all that, I love football. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, a guy who I played a couple years in the league. He's now into coaching, coached a few years in the Canadian Football League as a coordinator and most recently as a head coach. Won a Grey Cup a couple years ago. And we were talking about, how now, we're older. We're headed towards 40 here in a few years. And he talked about that thing that seems to be programmed into football players, that my love for the game, I love this game. And at a certain point, you realize it don't love you back. It's only taken from you. And when you can find a way for it to actually give to you, Marshawn Lynch, Calvin Johnson, you be one of the best at your position and be rewarded financially. Marshawn Lynch told these folks he was going to retire like 2 years ago if he didn't get his money. They caved, paid him a bunch of money, and now he's set to really retire this time. You know what I mean? Like, all right, good, I'm going now. For real, for real. They didn't have like hernia surgery and all that. Come on, man. Yeah. The offensive philosophy of the team has changed since he's been gone. They got a new young guy. I just talked about Thomas Rawls. If you're Calvin Johnson, all they're going to do is try to take money back from you anyway to keep you on the football field for them to be their marquee player. But in reality, Calvin Johnson had 2 touchdowns this year. My guy, Branson Wright from the Cleveland Plain Dealer, he wrote a piece the other day that said, while still in his prime. Nah, Calvin Johnson ain't been in his prime for about 2 years now. These last 2 years have been hold-on years. As is evidenced by the injuries last year and the lack of production this year. Yeah, while other people are sad to see these dudes go, nah, I'm good. Happy for them. Made plenty of money. Now it's time to move on to the next phase. And then it's time for us, you and me as fans, to move on to the next phase. Embrace some of these other guys. These what's the kid's name down in Jacksonville, the wide receiver? Guys like, Julio for the next couple of years, and Cam and AJ Green. Yeah. It's dudes that's coming up, man. D-Hop down with the Texans. This dude's still playing wide receiver and playing at a high level. Des Bryant. And embrace them. Because in a few years, it'll be over for them. Then there'll be another crop of guys. You know what I mean? To replace them. It's the beauty of the NFL, man. Constant turnover. More and more young athletes, because the NFL in and of itself is a young man's game. And the fact that now guys are getting paid a lot more, they're able to make very clear business decisions. Very, very clear business decisions as to how long they want to play and go out on their quote-unquote own terms. Not just in the sense of I'm going out after winning the Super Bowl, but going out knowing that I'm financially in a very, very good place and I can stop bashing my head into other human beings for a living. Good for those dudes, man. There's One Mic with Big Mike. Got about another 15 minutes left in this episode. Coming back from a nice, long, week off, man. Took the whole week last week. Just try to get some stuff straightened out, if I can straighten out my speech. Do some things to improve the show. Reach out to some people who I hadn't reached out to in a while. I had to dig up some contact information on some guys, some people that could help me with some guests and things of that nature. So that goes. Ben Troop will be joining me, former Florida Gator, All-American at tight end. I think Ben Troop was a Patriot, a Saint as well. I have all that squared away by the time I talk to Ben Troop. But yeah, and also on Friday, I'm scheduled to talk to. Now I can't even think of his name. Jesus, man, I'm so terrible with names. Like that didn't change over the break. I terrible. I former Denver Bronco Super Bowl champ. Played with John Elway I'm going to talk to him. I shouldn't even be bringing this up because I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. I'm so ridiculously bad with names. So anyway, my overall point is just trying to, improve the show and take it to a next level with guests and content. Because like I said, football season's over with. It's time to do the heavy lifting now. It's time to see who really can maintain a viable conversation that doesn't involve, who's your favorite Falcon of all time? Give me a call. Yeah, there are no calls here, just me. I do have the chat room. I haven't even mentioned the chat room today. I'm sorry, guys. If you guys ever want to let your thoughts be known or have your opinions be known by me, you guys just jump on in my interactive chat room, Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com. Follow my show, the number 1, MICWITHBIG. MIKE. And once you do that, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m., I'm broadcasting live. So you'll see a little dancing thought bubble at the bottom of the screen. You click on that, and platow. You're in the interactive chat room. You guys can interact with me. You can interact with each other. I do sit here, and I see you guys in there, and I see the kind of stuff that you're talking about. No one today, because I haven't been mentioning it. And I don't mention it enough, I don't think, on my social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram, at One Mic with Big Mike, just the number 1, and on Facebook.com, One Mic with Big Mike, but spell out O-N-E, and it's One Mic, like a microphone, with Big Mike, my name, Mike, at the end. Kind of like a little play on words thing there. Let's see what else I got to get out of here, get out of my mouth before I leave today. There was an incident where, of course, once I say the name, you'll realize something stupid happened. Bill Romanowski was tweeting about Cam Newton after the press conference. He referenced him, or he made reference to him as a boy. He called him a boy, and you know how my people are. That stuff happens, and everyone has to get flaming mad. But I will say, calm down and consider the source. It's roided out Romanowski, man. Come on, this dude spat in a dude's face at one point. J.J. Stokes, he broke a dude's eye socket at practice, punching him in the eye, ending his career in another situation. Come on, give it a rest. There's no need for you to exert any undue energy in things that Bill Romanowski says. And I talked a little bit about the societal things that get pointed to when what happens with Cam Newton happens, man. The way where we're so quick. ESPN has trained people, sports fans, to be idiots and believe that in a football game, one person is responsible for a loss or a win, or that at one position you should act a certain way. I'm going to say this. If his teammates and coaches don't have a problem with Cam Newton's leadership style, because there's this whole thing about everyone's like, yeah, that's who he is. One of the Broncos said, that's who he is. He's all about me. Look, it worked for the tune of 14 wins and 1 loss. Or what was it? 15 wins and 1 loss this season. So I say all that to say, it's cool for everyone to have their opinions from the outside looking in. But as long as the dudes that are in the building are cool with what's happening, and of course, there is the deodorant by the name of winning that, it covers up a lot of those things, right? Something else that happened when I was gone, Johnny Manziel caught a domestic violence. Now, he didn't really catch a charge because I guess they didn't charge him, but his ex-girlfriend, filed a restraining order against him. Apparently, he put his hands on her in a violent manner. You know how the NFL feels about that. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because Johnny Manziel can't play football. Ray Rice couldn't play football anymore. And what inevitably happened was Ray Rice was, for all intents and purposes, he was blackballed from the NFL. One, due to the fact that he punched his woman and knocked her unconscious in the elevator on tape. And the other thing that kept him out is the fact that he wasn't really worth the risk. Like I say, all these undrafted 7th-round dudes running the football, why would I even want to take a risk on? He doesn't play a position that is necessarily a commodity. So he's able to just, keep dreaming about getting back into the NFL, but it's not happening at all. And Johnny Manziel, same thing. Proven himself to not really be able to play in the NFL. And the fact that I think the difference is the fact that backup quarterback is such a necessary position in the NFL, because very few quarterbacks play all 16 games. And as you saw this past season with the Dallas Cowboys, not having a quality one will ruin your life as a team, your collective lives as a team. So it's going to be interesting to see how the NFL handles this. His girlfriend wants charges to be pressed. You know, the team can't necessarily deal with him right now, so it's expected that they will cut him. It was already suspected that it would happen, but I think now the final nail has been put in that coffin. And, well, we'll see. We'll see if people keep talking about Jerry Jones. I read something the other day that he's no longer, the Cowboys, not he, but the Cowboys no longer interested in Johnny Manziel, which I don't see why they would be anyway. You know, but that is what it is. So I'll definitely keep you guys abreast of the situation. I really didn't take that much time to even dig that deeply into it. Like, I saw the stuff with his dad saying that the kid's not going to make it. If he keeps going the way he's going, he won't make it to C-24. And now all these people are saying, you know, we've got to help Johnny. No, you don't. Johnny Manziel's a grown man, and the other thing he's a person of means. You know what I mean? Not many people are afflicted. Like, I'll accept someone telling me that addiction is a disease, right? But much like any other disease, when you have the ability to seek treatment for that disease, like if you have cancer and you have good health insurance, you're not just going to sit around and be like, well, I mean, you know, my body's deteriorating because I got cancer, you know, and not do anything about it. You're going to do something about it. Now, there are people who don't have means and they have to try to figure it out, you know, and unfortunately, in this country that we live in, sick people die every day for the lack of quality health care, which is ridiculous in a civilized society, quote unquote. Another issue for another day, obviously, right? But in the case of Johnny Manziel, people talk about he don't want to go to rehab. Well, then screw him then. Let the chips fall where they may, because there are actually people who have these problems, people that look like me, and they end up incarcerated. They end up in penitentiaries as their form of rehab. Meanwhile, he has the ability, he has people who will help him recognize there's a problem, as well as he has the means financially to help rectify the problem. But yet he's against that course of action. So whatever happens to him. Like, yeah, I'm about to have to babysit that dude. You know what I mean? The other thing he has something. Football. That, you know, if what he says is true, which is in doubt by many people, not just myself, that he loves football, he has that, because that's another part of addiction. People tend to become addicts, drug addicts, when they don't have, because there are people, you know, surprisingly, there are people, a lot more people than you might think, that like smoke crack casually. You know what I mean? You know, where the Super Bowl was this year. There's a special on Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley in San Francisco, where all the tech stuff, Google and all those people are high off their asses all the time. You know, writing code for different apps and things of that nature for technology. So they're functional. They're functional addicts. So let's not get it twisted. He has something. There's a couple guys in the NFL. And I'm not talking about like Josh Gordon, guys who like to smoke a little weed. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real talk cocaine heads, allegedly. That you guys might not know about. But, you know, see guys who struggle through a couple of years of their careers, and you wonder, like, man, this dude was supposed to be so much better than that. And then all of a sudden, they say the light went on. No, the light went off. The light from the crack pipe went off. You know what I mean? And the person became serious about their craft and got better. Persons, whatever, got serious about their craft and became better players because of it. So this whole, like, now it's time to feel sorry for Johnny Manziel, not me. And it may sound like some bad guy stuff, but I don't care. Whatever. You know what I mean? Because if it was me, you wouldn't care. No one would care. Why? Because you know his name? Pfft. Yeah, miss me with it. Finally, real quick, here locally, the Atlanta Falcons, as we talk about teams preparing to find themselves in the big game next February, they've cut Justin Durant, now former Falcon, but before that, former Jaguar, and William Moore, second-round draft pick for the Falcons in 2009, safety and linebacker, or I should say linebacker and safety, respectively. Those guys were cut today, and they hired Joel Collier to be a part of their player assessment team, a guy who worked with Scott Pioli, who was brought on, I think last year, right? Or the year before. Scott Pioli was brought on to assist Thomas Dimitroff, the GM, in talent evaluation. Now, one of Scott Pioli's guys has now been hired, Joel Collier. And it almost seems like there's a little bit of a coup starting to happen, but I'm not conspiracy ninja, so we're not going to do that. And as far as getting the team better, another Bleacher Report mock draft came out today, and it has the Falcons at number 17 selecting defensive tackle Andrew Billings out of Baylor. Huge kid, 6 foot, like a bowling ball. He's like 6 foot, 311. Read his scouting stuff. I'm going to go to my site, draftbreakdown.com, and check out his film, but very good run stopper. I don't know how you tell that playing in the Big 12, but whatever. Good run stopper, and a guy who's not going to be a sack machine, from what they say, but a very explosive guy in the middle of your defensive line that can push the pocket, which is just as important. Being that you see guys like last night, you saw guys like Star Lotulelei, whatever. Remember when Trevor Knighton was with the Broncos, and now they got that other kid they just signed to the extension, and with the Broncos. The push up the middle is just as important as getting it off the edge, and it even helps the guys on the edge. That's why Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, that's part of the reason why they're so effective in these playoffs. Other than the fact that they're great athletes and great pass rushers, but other things factor into that as well. So this kid out of Baylor, and I'm a big proponent of the Falcons getting a veteran pass rusher, a Bruce Irving, Mario Williams to come in here and help with the development of Vic Beasley, not another rookie, not 2 rookie defensive ends. That's, he won't be a rookie next year, but a second-year guy and a rookie. Kind of like the blind leading the blind. Because what do you think Vic Beasley got from Corey Bierman? I'll hang up and listen. You know what I mean? Whatever. So yeah, I'm a big favor of getting a guy who's been through the league, has scouted tackles, can talk about moves and counter moves and setting up moves and timely sacks and things of that nature. So it's not just this athletic kid just running around out there trying his best to make plays, which is what Vic Beasley pretty much is right now. So yeah, the Atlanta Falcons getting ready, man, as we start here, even on this show, start with the talent evaluation portion of the year for the NFL. Moving into more basketball as I sit here right now. I'm going to talk about this Louisville story tomorrow, or on Wednesday, excuse me. The show is live from 7 to 9 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday right here on Spreaker.com. I'm going to talk about this Louisville thing and these self-imposed sanctions and all this foolishness. They're playing Duke right now. Ooh, Duke is bad this year. Unranked. What? Yes. Who cares, though? Whatever. The tournament will come and we'll figure it out then. I'm not a guy who's big into college football, college basketball regular season. I watch enough to find out who the players are to watch. Ben Simmons and the kid from Oklahoma and, couple other guys. But, I'll be all right. I think I'll be good. Anyway, that's going to do it for me for tonight, for this episode. First one back after a week off. I think I did all right. Nah, I probably didn't, but whatever. Try to do better on Wednesday. Don't forget my guy. I'll be tweeting about it and Facebooking it and all those things. Instagram. My guy Ben Troop will be joining the show. We're going to talk to Ben about a bunch of things, man. We're going to talk to Ben about. I let him chime in on the Cam Newton thing, get his opinion on the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about the process, the evaluation process. He's a guy who went through it. He's a big timer coming out of the University of Florida back in the day. So we're going to talk to him about the process, the All-Star games, the combine, all these kind of things, the things that we're getting ready to go through right now as fans of the NFL, as we see the next crop of athletes surface in order to do their thing and to move the NFL forward. All right. Once again, it's One Mic with Big Mike. being heard on Spreaker.com, Spreaker.com, and the app. Make sure you guys please sign up for your free Spreaker accounts, and once you do that, follow my show, the number one, MIC, WITHBIGMIKE. Also, follow me with the same handle on Twitter and Instagram, and like my Facebook page, ONEMICWITHBIGMIKE. This episode and all other episodes are available on Spreaker. If you don't catch them live, please make sure you go and download them and stream them from there. Click the little heart button to show me that you like the content. And as far as all that stuff goes, like I said before, I'll see you guys on Wednesday for an all-new episode of One Mic with Big Mike.